Welcome to the Week 16 edition of the Sunday Night PFF Forecast podcast. Just finished watching the Aaron Rodgers revenge tour roll through Tennessee. We're going to talk a little bit about what we learned from this week, what the playoff picture looks like, and then go into Week 17, talk about the early spreads on games that matter, because there are a few. So let's rock. All right, I have a great question to open this up with.
Sure.
Because I was going to ask you if the Chiefs are overrated, but I know you're not gonna bite there. But we just watched Davante-Adams and Aaron Rodgers absolutely dominate. We also saw against a Titans team that we know sucks on the defensive side of the ball. We also saw the Chiefs struggle a little bit today. You're smiling. They struggled.
Yeah. No, it was a legit game where you were like, oh, they actually didn't play well, and that's why they didn't cover the spread. Yeah,
they did not play very well. So this is the question. Let's say you're picking between Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce and Aaron Rodgers to Davante-Adams. You don't know what the down and distance or situation will be. It's randomly chosen for you. Would you rather have Rodgers to Adams or Mahomes to Kelce? So it's interesting because if you need like 30 yards, for example, right?
There's actually this answer is different depending upon the question. So the question you posed to me, I'll say Rodgers to Adams. If you're asking me, even independent of age, I would take Kelce, Mahomes to start a team. Because I don't think that's close. Yeah, but on one play, I would take Adams and Rodgers.
That's kind of what I'm asking. I'm sort of trying to get at, let's say these two teams meet in the Super Bowl. Right now, the Kansas City is the odds-on favorite to make it out of the AFC, and Green Bay is the favorite to make it out of the NFC. So you're in the Super Bowl, and these two teams are going at it, and it's a close game, and that's kind of what I'm getting at here. I agree with you. The reason I don't think it's close, like if you're starting a team, the quarterback matters so much more, right?
Yeah, but even if you take out age, Kelce doesn't get hurt. Adams, as brilliant as he is, has missed a lot of time over the course of years. Tight end is more scarce. Top end tight end play is more scarce than top end wide receiver play. At Adams' position, there are probably 10 players who are give or take a half a
Yeah, but the point is there that Mahomes is better than Rodgers, and that matters more than the difference between Kelce
I don't think
and Adams.
Mahomes is playing better than Rodgers currently, but I
agree.
But sure, absolutely, he's the most valuable asset in the entire NFL
this year. Aaron Rodgers is the most valuable player in the NFL.
Well, he was even going into the week, and I think he's extended that lead for sure. Yeah.
I'm with you on. If I had to make one conversion, I didn't know how long it was, I didn't know where it was on the field, Rodgers to Adams is the duo that I'm choosing. I mean, the guy creates separation. It's funny that the players were playing on snow today because he does that routinely where it looks like the defensive back is playing on snow. Okay, this leads into the next question to talk about, which is looking at Super Bowl futures right now. Okay, so I'm on DraftKings Sportsbook. I think these are up on FanDuel as well. The prices are basically the same. Kansas City to win the Super Bowl plus 180. Green Bay plus 525. So that'd be Kansas City at about 36% chance of winning the Super Bowl to break even. Green Bay 525. That's about 16% chance. New Orleans plus 700. Buffalo 10-1. Seattle 10-1. Tampa Bay 11-1. Baltimore 13-1. That's an interesting one. Pittsburgh 22-1. What do you find most interesting about these?
Buffalo. I think Buffalo is the best value on the board currently.
Yeah. when you compare it to Kansas City, it is interesting.
In Kansas City, you basically have to assume a break even probably of 36, which I don't think our simulations are ever going to get there until the playoffs start. Now that we know that they're the 1 seed, that does help, but we've known that they have a really good chance for the 1 seed for weeks now. Buffalo's going to get, so it's weird though. So New Orleans is favored over Buffalo to make the Super Bowl. I think there's part of the reason is there's still an opening for them to get the 1 seed, but the other reason is that the 7th seed in the NFC is a way bigger travesty than whatever's going to come out. Like the AFC, there's a bunch of flawed teams, but they're all okay or better. The team that comes in and takes the 7th seed in the NFC sucks.
Well, so right now, here's the interesting thing. So Buffalo, with a win tomorrow, right, would be in the 2 spot. And with a win against Miami, would solidify the 2 spot. Right now, the 7th spot is Cleveland. If I know that it's Cleveland, then I feel pretty good about Buffalo. If I know that it's Indianapolis even, I feel pretty good that it's Buffalo. The team that scares me the most is Baltimore.
Yeah, the Ravens. And the Ravens went from needing help going into the week to now no longer needing help. I mean, as our friend of the pod, Steve Kornacki, said on Sunday Night Football, they're the one team that if everybody wins out or if everybody loses out, they're out.
Yep.
So it's not a great look there. They do still have a path to the AFC South. It requires them beating Jacksonville, which is doable, and Tennessee falling to Houston, who lost to the Bengals today at home. So it's a tough road for Indianapolis.
I think it's really interesting that Seattle and Buffalo have the same odds, because Seattle, to me, in watching their game today, I know they won, but I was not encouraged by what I saw.
It's sort of how we said it would go,
for
right?
the 10th straight week, though. I don't know how you could.
They
be
appear to have
about
taken all the wrong lessons about this season and applied them. And luckily, the Rams, I hate saying this, but the Rams are who we thought they were, right? Like the Rams are a very limited team on offense with some talent that they can accentuate at times. But, and if they don't have, if LA doesn't have 3 wins on Thursday night, Monday night football against bad teams, or not bad teams, but weird efforts like that, if you watch them play on a Sunday, they're below 500 on Sundays. It's weird. And we see decent games out of Jared Goff in these primetime spots, and we're like, oh, he's turned a corner. No, he's still kind of trash, actually. And, Sean McVay is doing, I think, an excellent job when he can, but it's a lot to overcome.
The Bills are plus 450 to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl. The Ravens plus 700, the Steelers 10-1. On the NFC side, the Packers are plus 200, Saints plus 275, Seattle plus 400, Tampa Bay plus 500. Interestingly, I think the second team that I would be interested in betting on, maybe not necessarily to win it all, but from a conference winner perspective, would be Tampa Bay. Just because of the high-powered variance that their offense can get. You watch Green Bay play today and you go, wow, that offense is overwhelming. But Tampa Bay's offense is also overwhelming in that regard. Yeah. I don't feel that way about the other offenses. So Tampa Bay at plus 500 would be one I'd be interested in. Here's the way that I look at the Bills. So if you think about the Bills at plus 450 to make it out of the AFC, so plus 450 would be what percentage here? A little under 20, so 18%. I mean, here's the way I would think about it. Let's say that they get a decently easy matchup. They face Kansas City in the AFC Championship. What percentage chance are you giving them?
Well,
because I think it's 30%.
3 months ago, it was Kansas City minus 5.5 in Buffalo. So you sort of turn that around. No home field advantage really anymore. Kansas City will have and it's colder there. Buffalo's and I think people's opinion of Buffalo has gone up while theirs of Kansas City has gone down. So you're probably talking about Kansas City being a 6-point favorite, which is probably 70-30.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I think makes it a shrewd bet. Any appetite on betting on the Packers to win the Super Bowl?
I already did. I mean, that's like so.
But right now.
Yeah. Just sort of pimp the article that we write about futures. Plus 700 was what we recommended a couple weeks ago. Plus 550 represents a decent change. Now, interesting. Like I just want to point this out, not to be Kansas City centric, but the Chiefs were plus 175 going into this week. They're plus 190 now. Mm-hmm. So what has contributed to that? It's a little bit of Kansas City playing down to Atlanta, a little bit of
Green Bay
looking really good, right? So
New Orleans also looked good.
New Orleans did look good, but I don't know if people really view do they view Tampa that win against the Vikings as?
I'm just saying that a lot of teams that have a chance.
They did look good, but against really bad competition. Green Bay is the only team among these folks that played a team who is going to be in the playoffs. And so at 15% would be my break even there. I think it's probably still worth a shot at plus 550. I'll have to see what the simulations end up looking like this week. But just intuition's sake, this was their last tough game.
And here's what I would say. The Packers may have one of the only home field advantages, and that's weather. Like, there's no doubt about it that snow out there was an issue.
Yeah. I mean, I think, as somebody who attended the AFC Championship game last year, it was very cold. And, they played Tennessee. It was sort of the exact same thing where everybody was like, oh, this is going to be Derrick Henry's season. It's like, well, no, actually, this team lives here all the time and practices in this weather and is familiar with this situation. And it actually benefited them because they're playing at home.
The Titans' offensive line couldn't move their feet to pass block. The defensive backs were just falling all over the place. Yeah. So but you can't really predict that. I mean, you kind of get lucky there for that to happen. But I think I would bet on that too. Here's another team that played well today that may be influencing Kansas City, and I want to ask you this: was the Steelers win a win for the Steelers? Did you learn more about the Steelers in this game or more about the Colts?
Yeah, this is one where I just completely mushed the game. Tennis, Indy's up, so I had a little bit on the over.
Indy's not just up; they're up, and at halftime, the only way that Pittsburgh had scored points was on the fumble.
Yeah, right. Well, it was the only way that they could in the second half too when Rivers turned the football over. But it was so I have some Indy, I also have some over, and so. Me a little bit disappointed when Indy gets a stop at 24-7, 5 minutes left in the game, or 5 minutes left in the third quarter. I believe they're at 90% to win the football game. Come all the way back. Over hits, great, but then they lose the game outright. My thing with Indy, and I talked about this on the show this morning, the live show, Indy can compete with almost any team in the NFL. They can't beat elite teams because Pittsburgh had elite outcomes for 10 minutes of that game, scored a few points on Indy. Mm-hmm. And were you ever, once Indy relented the lead, right? Did you ever think that they were going to come back and win?
No.
I didn't. I was like, no. Oh my God, it's going to be like this. And when we shot putting the ball up and down the field, they got lucky that Steven Nelson held on to Hilton on a 1 4th down. And they got in striking distance, but ultimately
Yeah, the tough thing about Indy in this game was that they've always been a little fraudulent. They're a very solid team, but they don't have any superstars. They don't have anyone that ever really elevates themselves above the rest. Not that Pittsburgh necessarily does. I'll say this. I thought I learned a little bit about both teams. I don't know if I can say I learned more about one or the other. Here was the thing that stuck out to me about Pittsburgh. They actually came out and tried something different and had success with it. Like, they threw the ball down the football field, and Big Ben managed to put some in a catchable position,
Right.
which he just hadn't done before.
And that's really a smart move for them in the sense that he's not accurate underneath the football field anymore.
And here's the thing. People think that to throw it deep, you have to hold on to the ball for a while. That's not the case at all. Big Ben has always made a living off of throwing the ball deep and getting rid of it quickly. Like, that is possible. So
Yeah, but it also is this, like, look, you can't win in the NFL trying to throw it 6 yards at a time when your receivers can't catch it all the time and your quarterback can't throw it accurately all the time. And this is kind of like what Buffalo has learned, right? Like, sometimes you got to throw chunk plays and make big plays because they cover a multitude of sins. I would look, this sounds really stupid, but I'd rather take one play to get 30 yards than 3 plays to get 30 yards, right? And, like, especially when those 3 plays are just not the odds are just not that high for Big Ben anymore.
Okay, let's do this. Chiefs 1, Bills 2. Who's the third best team in the AFC right now?
Yeah, I think it's actually pretty simple. I think it's Baltimore.
Yeah, so do I.
You know, Baltimore might not get in the playoffs. I think they will, though. They play Cincinnati. Cincinnati has won 2 games in a row. Brandon Allen threw for over 350 yards today. But you know, the schedule broke favorably for them. They haven't really played a difficult team in a while. But you're starting to see some of the things with Lamar that are really helpful for him.
No, I agree. So then you go, I think at 4, despite what Tennessee did today, I would put the Titans there. And then I think you have this kind of mashup. I think it could be Pittsburgh. I think it could be Cleveland. I think it could be Miami if Ryan Fitzpatrick were to play. But it's interesting. So you look at the current picture. It's Kansas City 1. It'll be Buffalo or Pittsburgh 2, depending on what happens tonight. Tennessee, Miami, Baltimore currently in, Cleveland currently in. As you said earlier, Indianapolis is out. They can get in if one of those 3 teams, Miami, Baltimore, or Cleveland, loses. Or Tennessee, I guess, right? They can make their way in. On the NFC side, Green Bay, with a win against Chicago in a game Chicago needs to win to get into the playoffs, can get the first seed. Then it's New Orleans. Seattle has a chance if Green Bay loses and they win to get the first seed. Washington currently in the 4 spot. Tampa Bay in the 5 spot. We get to face Washington. That would be hilarious. The Rams are currently in. The Bears are currently in. Arizona on the outside looking in. But Arizona plays the Rams. They could beat the Rams. They could get into the playoffs. They need Chicago to lose, though. So a lot of interesting things. Let's jump into Week 17 now. You ready? Okay. I didn't have time to really sort these out, so we'll just kind of go through them and decide whether the
I lost the file that had my
your picks in them. Okay. Well, it'll be me, and you can tell me what what you're doing here is you're forfeiting the what you didn't the championship you didn't know existed.
Yeah.
Like signing your rookie quarterback to a second contract.
Or no, the one today that I got was if the Jets draft Penei Sewell, they'll have the best bookend left tackles in the NFL. Of course, hang a banner.
Congratulations.
Hang a banner.
That's amazing. The Cowboys had that. We got them far. So at 1 p.m., we have Miami and Buffalo. This is in Buffalo. Obviously, this game has not happened yet. I had Buffalo as a 5.5-point favorite. Buffalo will need to win, right?
Yeah.
To keep the 2 seed.
Oh, this is crazy. So Buffalo is a 1.5-point favorite.
Wow. So there
are a couple of these I think are influenced by some hypotheses.
Right. So Miami obviously playing for everything.
Mm-hmm.
Buffalo, not really. Okay, interesting. I'm not. How many games do you think we'll end up actually like betting this week? I usually end up betting probably 3 to 4 tonight, and then I'll make a couple other plays over the course of the week, usually on Wednesday night. But I don't know. I think it's gonna be very hard to pick games where you feel really good about betting either side.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I don't think it'll be a big volume week. The other thing, obviously, if you bet futures, I think the biggest thing this week is going to be cleaning up some of the exposure that you're not that thrilled with. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll talk about a couple of those games if you followed us along. But that one, there's obviously these markets are sharp. I remember last year though, we liked, for example, Houston plus, I think it was like 4.5. I can't remember exactly. And then midweek, it looked like they were going to play their players, so they didn't want to get Tennessee in the playoffs. And then eventually they thought better of it and started A.J. McCarron, which I don't think I'll ever say again. Thought better of it and didn't start A.J. McCarron, but you know what I'm saying? So those are always things you have to monitor this time of year.
Let's talk about the Dolphins real quick.
Yeah.
The Dolphins have the Houston Texans first round pick. And the Houston Texans are really bad. That could be a top 5 pick here. If Justin Fields or Zach Wilson, you know what? I'm going to make a statement. You can agree or disagree. If Justin Fields or Zach Wilson is available to the Miami Dolphins, they should, without blinking, take one of those two guys. What do you say to that?
I think you're right. So you know who Tua? So Tua is in a crossroads right now. Tua could very well. I always talk about this team. Dallas one time drafted Troy Aikman and drafted Steve Walsh in the same year. One of them was supplemental, but they used 2 first-round picks the same year. And Aikman was a Hall of Famer, and Steve Walsh was a winner. Steve Walsh was the quarterback of the Miami Hurricanes when Jimmy Johnson, his coach in Dallas, was there, and he won championships. He got to the NFL, and it was relatively clear early on that his arm wasn't good enough, right? And he was a fail, like he wasn't good enough to be a starter in the NFL. And Dallas traded him to the New Orleans. I say his name every podcast. But Bobby Hebert sat out a year for a contract dispute.
This is the 15th straight podcast.
And New Orleans got desperate and traded a first, a second, and a third for Steve Walsh a year after he's drafted. Started 5 games for the Dallas Cowboys. You put yourself in that kind of position, right? Like, and Tua hasn't been terrible.
No.
But he hasn't shit the bed completely, but he also isn't the reason they're winning football games.
And it's not me saying, "Oh, I'm giving up on Tua." This is playing the odds. Why would you want another team to make the decision for you, right? You want to say, let me choose which quarterback is best and then trade the other one. And yeah, okay, so maybe you don't get as much value because you're taking the option, right? You're saying, I'm going to pay a premium to have the choice of my 2 quarterbacks. But the idea that you're not getting anything for the other one is asinine, stupid, and short-sighted.
Right.
And people who think that you can't let a quarterback have competition, I'll tell you the teams that thought that this past year. The Denver Broncos, that's really working out really, really, really well.
Yeah.
Who's the other team that didn't want to give competition to their quarterback? Do you remember?
Well, like Carolina.
Carolina, but you know the one I'm thinking of is the Washington football team.
Yeah.
And Dwayne Haskins has really, he's blossomed without the competition of another quarterback.
And remember when I said that Alex Smith was still going to be a factor and everybody laughed? It was like, and it is funny because, honest to God, if the guy had a real calf muscle, he would have started today and probably won.
If Taylor Heineke had started today,
the game, he probably would have won. But the point of this is, and Chase Young's been great. Today he had a strip sack. And
it's been fantastic.
They were down 20-3, and he got a strip sack in Carolina's territory.
And it didn't matter.
And Dwayne Haskins stalled out, and they got down by 14, right?
Dwayne Haskins looked like he hasn't seen a play in their playbook in 4 weeks.
I mean, look, I agree with you 100% on the fact that they need to get their shit together as far as the quarterback position. But here's the thing. So it's fine that the ownership. It sounds like a situation where the ownership really wants to play Tua, which I get. You want to know. Fail quickly with these guys. I also don't hate that Brian Flores is pulling him. I don't care. Like you're trying. Look, you're doing. Life is about pissing everybody off as little as possible. But you're not going to please everybody.
Brian Flores is doing something that I never thought you could do, which is appease ownership and also show your players that you'll do anything to win games.
Yeah.
And thanks to
really
John
smart.
Gruden and the Oakland Raiders is able to do that.
Yeah, it's really
Kudos to Brian Flores, Coach of the Year. Okay, next game. The Baltimore Ravens are here in lovely Cincinnati to play the Bengals.
The Bungles.
I said that the Bengals would be a 13.5-point underdog, and I may be short here.
No, it's 14.
Okay.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I'm looking at the wrong game. That game's not up.
Really?
No, it's 11. What?
Really?
So why would it only be 11?
Well, the Bengals were spunky today.
Spunky.
Yeah.
Well, and did Marlon Humphrey return to the game, but they were without Peters. They were
That's
without
true.
Smith. Humphrey was injured for a time. Calais Campbell has been banged up. They're on the road. I think, are people overreacting? I mean, the fact that the Ravens are favored by less just like fucking 8 days ago.
Than the Steelers were?
Or
Is
no,
very
6
interesting.
days ago. Than the
Very
Steelers
interesting.
were like last week at this time. Shows you how much people are gun shy about laying a big number. We had a double-digit spread this week. It was Kansas City, Atlanta, and that had no chance if you laid it with the favorite.
The only thing that I'm wary of is since he has nothing to play for, obviously, they have something to play for, which is to ruin Baltimore's shot at making the playoffs. And that's probably the biggest motivation that Cincinnati's had all freaking year.
Yeah.
That said, Brandon Allen against Baltimore is something that I would certainly want to capitalize on. And this sets up, I think, really well for Lamar Jackson and what Baltimore wants to do, which is take advantage of a team that just is overmatched physically and athletically. So I definitely consider that one. I would. And I wonder if Baltimore, here's maybe one thought is Baltimore thinks they can beat Cincy with their B game and they roll out their B game. But that's a dangerous spot to be in.
Dangerous play. It's living dangerously, let's just say.
All right, should we move on?
Yeah, Baltimore win and in, so it's a win and in situation for the Ravens.
Okay. Pittsburgh, Cleveland. So this game is now no longer for the AFC North.
Yeah.
But Cleveland needs to win to make it. And if they lose, they need a decent amount of help, right? Because Baltimore is obviously a huge favorite. And Indianapolis is playing Jacksonville, right? So basically, the Cleveland Browns need to win this game.
Yeah.
I had Cleveland, Pittsburgh as a pick'em.
Yeah. This thing opened at 6.5. It's been bet down to 6, and at 7.5. It's bet down to 6.5. I have taken Pittsburgh at 7, plus 7. So there's the implication here that Pittsburgh is going to take it easy on the Browns.
Yeah,
that's what it looks like.
And
which look, if you're Pittsburgh, now granted you just beat Indy, but like we talked about this the other day, if you're an AFC team, you'd rather have Miami, some subset of Miami, Cleveland, in the playoffs than you would Indy, Baltimore. So if you can make it easier for Cleveland to get in,
Yeah, it's very interesting. I mean, do they think they might rest Big Ben? Big Ben, there's been a lot of talk about his injury, stat, like he's been injured, he's been banged up. I wonder if this line is saying Big Ben's going to be rested in this game.
It could be. I mean, he does need to get his core strength in a
because
place.
If Buffalo wins, if
go.
Buffalo beats New England, then Pittsburgh says, okay, screw it. And then they're, that's very interesting. Okay, well, I don't want to bet that game then. Next up, the Minnesota Vikings play the Detroit Lions. Why would we even talk about this
Actually, when I do remember saying this would be 6.5, and it is.
That's what I had too.
6.5. I mean, the Vikings. There's two things that are going to happen.
Is Stafford
here.
playing?
I think that they're saying no. This looks like a no.
Yeah.
But even then, there's two ways. The Vikings are going to win this meaningless game and fuck up their draft position, and it's going to be one cherry on top to a season that makes zero sense.
Dalvin Cook's going off in this game.
Yeah.
Just telling you right now.
It's going to be a cherry on top of a season that made zero sense from the get-go.
I'll tell you right now, I'm betting Minnesota Vikings overs next week. Prop overs.
Overs. Yeah. They're gonna win it. They're gonna win an imaginary trophy this week. Yeah.
Tennessee Titans and the Houston Texans. I had Houston as a 6.5-point underdog at home against Tennessee.
Yeah, I don't see it up right now.
Actually, this game is now 425, right? Because Tennessee lost, so now Tennessee and Indy's game have been moved to 425.
Makes sense. Indy. I mean, I can just tell you what I think the money line looks like. When I looked,
is there no spread up for this?
I don't see it on Bet Online. I'll tell you though, like the last time I looked, the division future for Tennessee is minus 430. Mm-hmm. So we're looking at a pretty big spread here, even for them on the road. Deshaun Watson was injured today. That might be what
I see Tennessee -7 pre Sunday Night Football. So I was probably pretty decently on this, but I would be a little concerned about Deshaun Watson. Now, the funny thing is that because of the Larry Tunsil disaster, they have no reason, right, to rest him, which is, I mean, that organization.
Well, they have reason to rest him just so that he doesn't have long-term catastrophic injury, but you're right. I mean, Houston, by the way, and granted, one of the picks ended up working out, but Houston has traded what ended up being a top 5 pick twice in the last 3 years. I mean, the Denzel Ward pick.
For a guy that was what pick?
Yeah. Well, the Denzel Ward pick was for Deshaun Watson,
right?
But the Laramie Tunsil pick,
right? I mean, it's absolutely hilarious.
Yeah, that one again. Tennessee needs to win the AFC South. They can also win the AFC South if Indy were to lose to Jacksonville,
which I have as Indy -13.5.
Okay, this is the one that I saw at 14. This is 14. Yeah. Jaguars were plucky for about a half today. That was it. That was how long.
Yeah.
Glennon did his quote-unquote job, let's just say.
Yeah. Now that Jacksonville has sealed up the number 1 pick, I don't know. Indy is a good team. They're very far.
They're very limited.
They're very, very far from being great. They're about as far from great as any good team can be.
Indy vying to be the second. Sorry, Jacksonville vying to be the second team in NFL history to win Week 1 and to lose the next 15 weeks. The only other team to do it was the team that entered the league with them, the Carolina Panthers in 2001, won the first game. Then 9/11 happened. So they had the week off, and then they lost the next 15 games.
That pretty much sums up that year.
That sums up, and it sums up the year for the Jags.
The Jets and the Patriots are the next game up. This is in New England. I have New England as a 6.5-point favorite.
It's 4.5. People are liking the Jets now. The Jets are starting to pay off now, George.
Can
you imagine that the plus 199? I should have bet that the Jets would win 2 or more games.
Yeah, you should have.
Can you imagine what the payout would have been?
You should have known that the entire Cleveland Browns receiving corps would have not had respect for coronavirus. So,
to be fair, the guys that replaced him did not separate from anything either.
That's true.
They did not get any distance.
So the Jets are locked into the second pick, though, because of what the Bengals did, right? Because the most they can win is 3 games, and there's no other team other than the Jags that can win that few, right? Because the Bengals,
the Jets have the second pick.
Right. I'm saying they can't fall out of that.
They're locked in.
Yeah.
The Bengals, they were locked in even if the Bengals lost today.
Right.
The tie that they had with Philly was.
But New England can help their pick out a little bit. This seems like a little bit of a Jared Stidham hedge.
They play Stidham, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Which means
we still have to see how New England plays tonight against Buffalo.
Right.
For that, I don't think it matters that much, but.
All right. Dallas and the Giants. One of these teams could be watching Sunday Night Football, rooting for Jalen Hurts so that they can get into the playoffs, and that is absolutely amazing. I had this as a pick.
Yeah, so you're talking about Washington, Philly?
No, Dallas, New York.
Dallas, New York, okay. Dallas is laying 2.5 now.
Okay, so I wrote pick, and I was looking over these, before this, and I said I would make this 2.5 now.
Yeah.
Because Dallas's offense is by far the best unit in this game, and the New York Giants offense. I mean, the whole New York Giants team is.
You got to think about what Dallas has had to go through to be in this position. Washington. So 2 weeks ago, we got this email back. It was like, were they really less than 1% to make it? It's like, well, sure. They had no tiebreaker.
Make the playoffs.
Yeah, they had no tiebreaker with Washington. They need Washington to go loss. 2 of those games at home, one against Philly, who at the time stinks. Dallas had to go win, win, win. 2 of the games they were underdogs.
They were underdogs to
San Francisco. They were underdogs today.
Saved the bell.
They were underdogs today against Philly. And then they also needed the Giants to do what we predicted them to do, which is fall from 5-7 and the darlings of everything
Judge,
to 5-10. And but now here they are. Like, as AJ Przinsky once said, "You doubted us, but now we're here."
I can't believe this.
The Dallas Cowboys are a win and a fairly modest thing, which is for Philadelphia at home to beat a football team who we're not sure who's starting at quarterback to make the playoffs in Mike McCarthy's first year.
Which would be a huge loss for Dallas in the net scheme of things. I mean, a couple weeks ago, they had a top 5 pick, and that's massive for this team.
Historically, you used to be able. So I remember one year the Vikings and the Rams both finished 8-8, lost, and they lost in the second round of the playoffs, both teams. So they both won a playoff game and still got to pick in the teens. They changed the rule a few years back. So now you pick where your seed is. Yeah. And so that is a bad break for a team like, whoever wins the NFC East is kind of getting screwed over by a draft pick.
So here's a question for you.
Yeah, I think Dallas can actually win a game in the playoffs, though. That's my thing. Of these teams, Dallas is the only one that has a chance.
So Dallas plays Tampa Bay. You think they can beat Tampa Bay? If Dallas makes the playoffs and they play Tampa Bay, I would make the spread 14.
Okay,
I would probably still bet Tampa Bay. Andy fucking Dalton is going to have a meltdown against Tom Brady in prime time. Yeah. That will be a Sunday night. That will be a Sunday night game.
He's never played Tom Brady despite making the playoffs 4 straight years because he never got out of round 1, and Brady never had to play in round 1.
That game will be on Sunday night, and it will be
a bloodbath.
45-0 at halftime.
Okay, can I rebut a little bit on that? I think Dallas's defense is bad in the right places to entice Tampa Bay to be inefficient.
Okay. I would have said that. However, that game against Detroit, I thought there was a power shift that happened where Tom Brady has a little bit more control over the offense now. I think the Bruce Arians way of running the offense, maybe they've gotten a little bit of a clue.
Look, that is a fair hypothesis.
You're telling me with the playoffs and a Super Bowl that close, you can smell Tampa Bay playing in Tampa Bay, and Brady's going to be like, let's just fucking run it to Leonard Fournette here for 2 yards.
Yeah. Dallas's offense is who we thought they could be when Dalton. Remember, because they baffled us to no hell. Yeah. Dalton's first start against Arizona, fucking disaster. Now Arizona, by the way, Arizona would not be favored against Dallas on a neutral field right now.
What?
The Cardinals would not be favored against the Cowboys on a neutral field.
You're high. Did you smoke before this? I didn't know you were edible. Brownie? Did you make brownies?
Who's a better offense right now? The Cardinals or the Dallas Cowboys?
Dude, stop.
George,
you watched the Dallas Cowboys one time against the Philadelphia Eagles.
No, I didn't. I've watched them. Look, we've been saying this for weeks, George. They lost. They got blown out by the Washington football team. But remember what I said to you? I was like, Dalton doesn't look so bad. A little bit of noise here and there. Against the Baltimore Ravens on, what was it, Tuesday or Wednesday Night Football, their kicker missed 3 kicks, but they moved the football against the Ravens. Then they have a win against San Fran, and then they have a win against the Philadelphia Eagles, and and then the Bengals don't seem so bad now that they've won a couple games in a row. And Dalton played well against Minnesota, another team where they had to score to keep up with the Vikings offense. I'm not saying they're great. But Kyler Murray just put up fucking 12 points against Arizona.
Yeah,
they literally both played San Francisco in back-to-back weeks.
I get that recency bias would lead you to believe that Dallas is a better better offense. I get it.
Dallas has won, like the Arizona Cardinals have won a few games in the last like 2 months.
Cliff Kingsbury does a very nice job of holding Kyler Murray back. That is very true.
Yeah, so on a neutral field, I feel like
if there is a pick'em, if it is a pick'em, then you are running to bet Arizona.
Okay. So my thesis is the NFC East is kind of a travesty because the one team that possibly could have had a fighting chance, against an actual playoff team was probably Philly with Hurts, but they already disqualified themselves long ago. Yeah. Dallas is the next best team as far as...
I agree 100%.
Like, Washington is going to be a travesty against Tampa. And the Giants should be picking in the top 5. They should not...
They need to be picking in the top 5. All right, let's go to that game. Washington-Philly. So I did this before, obviously, and I had Philly as a 4.5-point favorite. I'm guessing that's not the case.
No, it's Philly -1.
Yeah.
The interesting thing, remember, so Washington was so poor today that we took their odds of beating Philly down 6%. Just based upon that, it's probably even going to go down further given how that offensive side of the ball graded. Market's backing Philly a little bit here.
They also probably don't know if Alex Smith is going to play.
And honest to God, Alex, if you get the ball on the fairway today for Washington, you win.
If Taylor Heineke plays that whole game, they win the game.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
Taylor Heineke looked like he had actually seen the Washington football team playbook once.
Did that 4:00 hour? It probably broke about as poorly as it could, right?
Yeah. Because Washington Philly would have been interesting if the winner won that game.
Yeah, if Philly would have won against Dallas, this is a very compelling game as far as outcomes. Now it's only the Sunday night game because it's literally the only game where the stakes right now are going to be the stakes at 8:30 on Sunday, and unfortunately that leaves us from having either ignoring Sunday Night Football altogether, which I know they don't want to do and they shouldn't have to do, or something like Green Bay Chicago, right?
Which could be
Green Bay Chicago will always matter to Chicago. Now it might not matter to Green Bay, right? That's the issue. And then but it probably will because New Orleans plays Carolina and Seattle plays San Fran. But it put the NFL in such a ridiculous bind, right? This was the right choice with the parameters that we're working with, but man, it could have been better.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Okay, next game. We have the Atlanta Falcons and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So Tampa Bay cannot improve their slot. How could they fall? So they're 10-5. I guess the Rams could win.
If the Rams win and they lose that tiebreaker vis-a-vis the Monday Night Football game. Before, yeah.
So they do have some incentive here. So I had Tampa Bay favored by 9.5.
Yeah. It's 6, and it was 7 earlier in the week. So on the look ahead, it was 7. It's a trap. Bet the Bucs. Here's the thing. The Falcons against the Chiefs was the last effort.
Are the Falcons the one defense that can stop the Chiefs? No.
I
can make it to the Super Bowl.
I like the Falcons and I hate the Falcons. At
least we bet them this week.
We text back and forth with people and we're like, look, I'm like, if only X, Y, and Z could happen. And actually it happened today. Yeah. Ridley was explosive. Foye Oluokun and Deion Jones are 2 good linebackers. Obviously, Jarrett's amazing in the interior, and AJ Terrell looks like an NFL corner. So there's a lot to like about Atlanta. I hope they get blown out because I kind of want them to start over at head coach and that kind of thing. Raheem Morris has done a fair job. I just don't know if and this is a Raheem Morris revenge game.
Let's move on because there are a couple games here that I want to talk about that I think I might want to bet on. 4:00 hour. New Orleans Saints, Carolina Panthers. Carolina, 9.5-point underdog is what I had it at.
Oh my God! If I gotta watch it, it pains me to no end that I have to watch Teddy Bridgewater be bad because he did throw his 15th touchdown with screw high.
Yeah.
It's 5 actually. I think people maybe are
It's 5?
It's 5.
Are they resting Drew Brees?
I don't know. New Orleans even gets more days rest, right? Like, it's weird.
Huh. So
New Orleans, for the record, absolutely dump trucked Carolina in Week 17 last year in the same situation where it was like win and you might get a bye. That was last year. And they
the
ran
reason,
like
the reason they would want to win is to keep the 2 seed
alive. Yeah, it's the exact same situation as previously, as last season.
And they still
Bears Packers. That's at 4, right?
Yeah.
So there's no reason, like, they won't have any information. They could look, this could be factoring
No,
in.
but even if they win, they can't get the 1 seed.
Yeah, they can.
How?
If they end up in a 3-way tie with Seattle and Green Bay.
Oh, because then it's not head-to-head.
So what they're probably doing is saying, look, if
What's that tiebreaker then? Is it strength of schedule?
it might be conference. I can't remember if it's conference record or what it is.
Oh, man. If it was conference record, then they would be tied with Seattle if Green Bay were to lose.
So that it would be strength of victory or something weird like that.
Wins tiebreak over Seattle based on best win percentage in conference games right now, but man.
So if Green Bay were to lose to Chicago, that'd be a conference game lost, right? And
I think they'll have the better strength of victory because they currently have the better strength of victory right now.
Yeah. I mean,
Man.
but what this line is sort of incorporating, I remember our first year betting together was 2017. New Orleans went to Tampa in Week 17, got a little bit of a lead, but then it was pretty clear that they weren't going to get the 1 seed or whatever. And then they didn't call off the dogs, but they let Tampa win the game. Busted our under, by the way, in that game, which also sucked. But that's what I think they're putting in there is like, because last year during the 1 o'clock hour, New Orleans just absolutely rolled Carolina. Green Bay was in the meat grinder with Detroit the whole game, right? And if they would have lost to Detroit, New Orleans would have got the 2 seed in a bye, and that was factored in. If, let's say, Green Bay just absolutely destroys Chicago, then this might be a live spot, where the Saints continue to pour it on.
Next up, this game. I'm excited for this one. Okay, so Green Bay, Chicago. Where did I have this here? Why can't I find it? Here it is. Green Bay favored by 6.5.
Were you able to find it? I don't see it on Bet Online.
Let's see here. I see 4.5 pre-Sunday Night Football.
Yeah, so Sunday Night Football, they blew up Tennessee, so 6.5 probably is smart. I mean, on the road, Trubisky. By the way, I actually, we were helping somebody out today. Just the PFF grade. So you go get a PFF subscription, go to Premium Stats, look at the grade. Trubisky's last 4 opponents, they've been 3-1 against them. Detroit's 32nd, Minnesota's like 25th, Jacksonville's 28th, and Houston's 30th. So those are the 4 teams against which the Bears are making their decisions about Trubisky. We need to calm the fuck down about Trubisky here. I think Green Bay lays a pretty sizable beating on them.
I've been frustrated by many things in my life before, sports related. I can't imagine what I would do if I were a Bears fan and they re-signed Mitchell Trubisky. Like, I just don't know. If you love sports and you love your team and your team does something this obviously stupid, I just don't know how you recover from that. Like, why would you ever base something on those 4 games against those 4 teams when you have 4 years of proof? Why? How?
We all like to hang in imaginary banners, man.
guess. To me, it almost feels like the Bears. I don't know. Like they're afraid. They're almost afraid to be great. I don't know.
Dare to be great, man. I'm telling you.
Like you'd rather just hope this guy is a top 15 quarterback next year, and oh man, because you've invested so much already. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me. But if you're a Chicago Bears fan, I really feel for you. The good news for you is that Green Bay needs to win this game. That's the good news for you, because that could mean that Mitchell Trubisky does not look great. By the way, if this is still 4.5, I will bet Green Bay.
Yes. And have we talked about Arizona yet? Is that
we have not. Next game on the list here is Las Vegas and Denver.
Okay. This is where I'm going to talk briefly, and I know no one cares about your bets, but if you followed us along and had a Las Vegas Raiders under 7.5 ticket or under 7 ticket, which was dead in the water weeks ago, it's still alive. And talked about frequently. Okay, eventually Denver might end up being favored in this game. You can bet Las Vegas. You can even bet Las Vegas and have a smaller Polish middle where, if a game lands horribly, then you lose everything.
Not as bad as a Polish sausage, but
yeah. Here actually, Denver is slightly favored in this game. It's a pick 'em, but it's minus 120 to Denver. Even money's towards Vegas. So currently, if you just want to get off some of that exposure, if you have Vegas under, you can bet the Raiders on the road at even money here to sort of siphon it off.
I would bet the Raiders on the road at even money anyways.
Just because you think that the Broncos stink.
Do you watch Drew Lock play football today?
Did you watch the Raiders operate in the end of game situation the other day?
True. Jerry Jeudy dropped like 5 passes.
Look, like
today, by the way. Wasn't great.
I'm a little worried about a team that got out-chargered by the Chargers 10 days ago.
That's fair. All right, next game is the Chargers playing the Kansas City Chiefs in Kansas City. So the Kansas City Chiefs have nothing to play for anymore. Are they resting people? What do you think?
Yeah, Andy Reid has a long history of resting, or not even start, like literally making somebody like Mahomes inactive for the game. So
let's assume backups.
Chargers should be favored by 10. Home.
It's in Kansas City.
No, it's not. Oh yeah, it is in Kansas City. I'm sorry.
I'm sitting here reading the schedule.
Sorry. Okay, 9.5. Here's what I'll say. And somebody asked me, why did they move the Chiefs game, right? And I think it's pretty clear why. Justin Herbert's like one of the bright shining stars in the NFL this year, and they're trying to show him off one more time.
Yeah, maybe. I'm guessing it probably has more to do with them. They had to move one game there, and they moved that game. That's my guess. Yeah, maybe it's Herbert. Maybe. The thing about that, though, your reasoning there is interesting because, yeah, he's a guy that people like, but also the Chargers have one of the smallest fan bases on the planet. So I'm guessing it had more to do with like regional something or other.
Yeah. Yes, for sure. So the Chargers playing Chiefs at 1 p.m. is a strategic advantage for the Chiefs that they have by being a central time zone team in the AFC West. Without the Chiefs giving a shit about the game, it comes down to Chargers, and yeah. There are a couple of interesting things about Kansas City in this game. They do have a number of young defenders that have started to get more reps. I do think they play those guys in this game, but I don't think they play Mahomes-Kelce, Hill, Sammy Watkins, Eric Fisher, any of those guys. I think this is going to be one where they bring up a lot of people from the practice squad.
Exciting. Thrilling, really. The next game up is the Arizona Cardinals playing in Los Angeles against the Rams. So this is probably going to be Wofford. I said with Goff, it should be the Rams -3. I'm guessing there's no lineup for this.
Yeah, no line. The Rams really dump trucked Arizona in Arizona just a few weeks ago.
What a gift this would be for the Cardinals if Wofford plays.
Do you think it matters that much? I mean, we've never. So that's the thing. We've seen, and we bet this game back in 2017. We've seen one Sean Mannion start in the stead of Jared Goff. Goff has been really durable for the Rams. we've seen differently for the Niners. They have had success with backups, at least against the spread. Do you think that with a week's worth of work and a playoff spot on the line?
Yeah, man. The tough thing about Wofford is like
he wasn't even that good in the AAF. I mean, honestly, it's I'm the foremost AAF expert here, and I wasn't a big fan of him.
I mean, there's got to be someone out there that you feel more confident in, right?
Out there, as in like Blake Bortles?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
I think so. Yeah, I don't see this up. Cliff Kingsbury needs to win this game. I don't understand what Arizona's offense is. I don't get it. Is there something we don't know about Kyler Murray's contract where it's like you can't let him run more than X times in a season?
We've been saying this shit all year, though. When they beat Niners week 1, it was like, who cares? Because like they're not running that efficient of an offense, right? Like
last game, Seattle, San Francisco. This is in San Francisco. Seattle, obviously, with a win and a Green Bay loss, can get themselves into the 1 seed. That's crazy.
Yeah,
that is insane.
Is Seattle going to be is Seattle going one and done in the playoffs?
I don't think so. I will say this. I think we're underrating the Seattle Seahawks right now.
Okay.
Remember
how they beat the Philadelphia Eagles in the playoffs last year? That's how this game against Jared fucking Goff felt. It's like
it did. It was a very ugly game. It was a very ugly game. I have the Seahawks as a 7-point favorite in San Francisco.
It's 3.5.
Whoa.
It's not San Francisco too. It's Arizona, which makes it even weirder.
That's right.
People are overcorrecting for your boy Shanahan in the betting market at this point.
Man. So I guess maybe there's some thought that Seattle doesn't try that hard to win this game.
I think it's a similar thing as New Orleans and Carolina. Yeah. I mean, we've seen this before. Seattle lost a home game to Arizona in like week 17 of 2016.
The difference in this is that with a win, and they don't need two things to happen, right? They just need Green Bay to lose.
Right, but if Green Bay is like up 38-3 against...
But they won't know that.
Well, it concurrently happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. That's interesting. I guess I'd lean Seattle. Do we have anything to even write up this week?
I think you like the Raiders.
I do kind of like the Raiders.
I think...
Good God in heaven. Should we write up talk about some futures maybe? We could do that.
Yeah. Let's talk. Let's think about Green Bay and Buffalo. Let's make the case for Green Bay and Buffalo.
Yeah.
There also one thing we can do. We can tease Buffalo -1.5 tonight. I don't think they lose. We could go Giants +8.5. Although I think Dallas can separate from Giants. Cleveland. I don't want to lay Cleveland. Minnesota. So here's a teaser that I don't think can lose. Buffalo -1.5. Vikings -0.5 next week. Like Detroit. Zimmer is the king of winning meaningless fucking games. And like this game is as meaningless gets.
What was the Baltimore line again?
11. So you'd be teasing them through 10, 8, 7, 6. It doesn't feel that great.
Not awesome.
You can also, you don't want to tease Saints through.
Well, you guys should read our article. It'll be out when you are listening to this. This was the Week 16 edition. We'll be back on Wednesday evening. Last show of 2020.
You're right.
That'll be incredible. Thanks for hanging out. See you guys.